In this chapter, we're going to be looking at internationalization. Internationalization is the idea of making our programs accessible, even for people that might speak different languages or be from a different country. There are things, standards that we use in the United States that may not be used in other places. And how do we adapt our programs so that they can be used in those other places and not be confusing to the users? So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Locale class. So there's a Locale class that's built into Java. Java has a lot of internationalization built into it, and the Locale class is kind of the beginning of that. A locale object represents a specific geographical, political, or cultural region. So it's not just by countries. For example, if you look at Canada, Canada has different regions. Some places they speak English, some places they speak French, and those are different locales. So we need to pay close attention to that. So an operation that requires a locale to perform its task is called locale-sensitive. So how are we going to display the dates depending on where we're at and what country we're in? Those are locale-sensitive things. So we can use the locale to I shouldn't say it's automatic, but it can help us tailor information to the users. So the Locale class has some methods built in. It has different constructors, so we construct locale just based on language code. We can construct a locale based on the language and country codes, which is probably the most common way to do it. Actually, the most common way is probably to get the default locale that's on the machine that the user is running, and we'll see a demonstration of that in the next video. And from those things, it has methods so that we can look to see what country we're set in, what language we're set in, what locale is set on the computer. So we can use all those get methods to look at those different things. So to create a locale, we can run its constructors. So we can say, make a new locale, and we can specify a language and country, or we could specify language, country, and some variant. Probably the first one is the most common. So for an example, we can say new locale. We can say English US. That would probably be the default for most of us watching this video in Northwest Ohio. We could also say something like new locale, and we could specify the language French in Canada for the country. You can also do things like set the locale and use some built-in enums like Canada or Canada_French. Okay. So an operation that requires a locale to perform its task is locale-sensitive. So displaying a number as a date or time is a locale-sensitive operation, and we need to format it according to the customs and conventions of the user and the user's locale where they're at. Some of the things we can use in there that contain locale-sensitive methods are the date, the calendar object, the date format objects, number format objects, and we're going to see examples of those coming up. How do we use those to reformat the dates into a standard that the user understands? If you want to, you could run this piece of code here, and I'll do that in an upcoming video. We're creating an array here of locales, and we're calling the calendar object, which is also looking at the computer, and we're getting the available locales, and you'll see that's a really, really long list of different locales that we can use in our Java program. Java is really very sensitive to these internationalization. It was designed from the ground up to be compatible with all these different things because they want Java to be able to run anywhere. Different locales, once we have our locale set, we know that different locales have different conventions for displaying date and time. Should the year, month, or day be displayed first? So in the United States, we tend to say the month, followed by the day of the month, followed by the year. and most countries look at us like we're crazy for doing it that way. Our military actually uses a different format than our country does that's more in line with international standards, where they say day of the month, followed by the month, followed by the year. So we're going from specific to more general as we go. Should we use slashes and periods or colons be used to separate the fields of the dates? What are the names of the months in the language? Are they in Spanish? Are they in English? The DateFormat class is something we can use to format it based on the locale that the person is in. So the DateFormat class, it's an abstract class. It has many methods for obtaining the default date and time formatters. And we can use that, and the format method is probably the one we use the most out of that. Once we have the locale set, we can create a date format, and then we can format any field that uses a date to display using that format. And we'll see examples coming up. Some things you need to know about date formats. Some of the built-in enums that can be used. Short displays dates the shortest way they possibly can for the locale. So in this case, we're looking at English here, probably United States English. So if we said to display the date as format, we get 12/13/52, or we might get 3:30 p.m. the shortest way we can do it. Medium's a little bit longer, so in this case we might get the 3 medium. We would get the 3 letter abbreviation for the month, followed by the date, comma, and then the full year. Long is even longer. We get January spelled out in this version. January 12th, 1952. For time, we're getting 3:30, and we're getting the seconds thrown in there. And if we use the format full, we'll get the full thing. Tuesday, April 12th, 1952. Anno Domini AD. Or something like 3:30 in 42 seconds p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're getting the time zone thrown in there. So it's a longer way to display those formats. Again, these were examples, I believe, using English in the United States. To get a date format, we create a date formatter. Here's an example of one, creating a date format, get date time instance, and they're specifying, following after that, the date style, the time style, and the locale. And we'll see examples of that being used in the next video.